The window stayed open all July because the fan barely helped at all. Homework spread across my desk beside a comic book and 2 pens. From the house next door came dinner sounds, a screen door closing somewhere out back, plates touching lightly on a table, and chairs moving across the floor. The kitchen light reached their curtains, turning them gold against the dark. I could see shadows crossing by, but never clearly enough. The family next door talking through the summer air, voices mixing with crickets, and a television somewhere down the street. Somebody laughing at a story, somebody asking for more rice. Just ordinary evening sounds floating through the window screen. A man usually arrived around 7. I knew by the sound of his truck. Then a few minutes later, the dishes and voices would begin. One night they argued briefly about something I couldn't hear. By dessert they were laughing again. At least that's how it sounded. I imagine birthdays and vacations, dogs, photo albums, board games, the kinds of details you invent when all you have are voices. The family next door passing bowls around the table, a cabinet opening and closing, footsteps moving through the house. The glow from their kitchen window stayed on later than the others, like the evening lasted longer there for reasons I never knew. Sometimes I stop reading entirely, just listening without meaning to. The way you listen to rain or a train passing in the distance, not because anything important happened. Nothing ever really did. The family next door still talking as the night grew darker, the television changing channels, the dishes finally reaching the sink. One by one the lights went out, until only the kitchen remained, and then that too disappeared into the quiet of the street. The fan turning by the window, my books still open on the desk, and voices drifting through the darkness from a house I never entered. Dinner plates were drying by the sink. The radio had finally gone quiet. You lean back in your kitchen chair, balancing it on 2 legs again. The screen door stayed open to the night, letting in warm air and crickets. A moth kept circling the porch light without ever landing anywhere. The ice melted in our glasses, leaving rings upon the table. And somewhere down the block a dog barked at something neither of us saw. Summer air through the screen door, moving the curtains now and then. Neighborhood lights across the street, coming on one by one. You talking about your supervisor, you talking about the grocery store. Nothing important really, just the evening taking its time. The couple next door were still outside, watering flowers after sunset. Their little boy rode his bicycle in circles near the driveway. A baseball game drifted from a window somewhere farther down the street, and every few minutes headlights passed across the ceiling of the kitchen. You said we should paint the hallway before autumn came around. I said maybe after payday, and that seemed like a reasonable plan. Summer air through the screen door, carrying sounds from the neighborhood. Screen hinges creaking softly whenever the breeze picked up. The coffee pot still on the counter, tomorrow's newspaper by the phone. The kind of evening that doesn't ask to be remembered. Around 9 the air felt cooler, the traffic started thinning out, and somebody laughed from a porch nearby before a screen door closed again. We sat a little longer, neither of us in a hurry. Summer air through the screen door, the kitchen glowing warm behind us. Crickets filling spaces between unfinished conversations. The neighborhood settling down, one house at a time, and the night stretching comfortably ahead with nowhere else to be. The screen door gently tapping, the lights across the street, and 2 coffee cups on the table long after dinner was over. The math book stayed open for an hour, on the same chapter as before. Pencils rolled across the desk and stopped beside a stack of notes. The desk lamp lit up half the room, leaving the corners in the dark. Outside the window, the street looked smaller than it did during the day. A bus passed at 10:35, almost empty from what I could see. Its lights moved across the houses, then disappeared beyond the hill. The last light on the block still shining through the window, while curtains closed one by one along the street below. Televisions fading into silence, porch lights switching off, and a neighborhood slowly folding into the night. Kitchen around walked outside again, the notebook waiting where I'd left it. A warm breeze moved the paper slightly through the open screen. The last light on the block, a desk covered in textbooks, a half-finished history essay, and tomorrow's test at 8. Streetlights humming quietly over parked cars and empty driveways, the whole town drifting somewhere else, while I stayed here. Around midnight, a train crossed town, its windows glowing in the distance. For a moment, it looked like another street, moving through the darkness. The clock beside the bed changed numbers, the pages slowly filled with answers, and the room grew quieter every hour. The last light on the block, still awake above the sidewalk, one window bright against the dark. At the end of summer, the notebooks finally closed, the pencil resting where it fell, and beyond the glass, the sleeping houses waiting for morning. The desk lamp by the window, the streetlights on the pavement, and one small room still glowing long after midnight.
The sun went down, but nobody cared. The bicycle stayed out in the yard. Mine was leaning near the fence beside the basketball with no air. The windows were all open tonight because the heat stayed after dark, and television sounds floated outside from every building on the block. One apartment had a game show, people clapping really loud. Another had a cowboy movie with horses running through the dust. Television through the window, voices drifting through the air. Cartoons, news, and baseball games coming from everywhere. The whole neighborhood sounded busy, even when you couldn't see anybody. Like every apartment was talking at the same time. Da, 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 da. Somebody laughed 3 buildings over, then a commercial started playing. I recognized the jingle instantly, even before the singing began. A baby cried across the courtyard, a dog barked near the parking lot, and somebody's father yelled dinner from a balcony somewhere above. The streetlights turned on one by one, making long shadows on the grass, but nobody wanted to go inside until the mosquitoes showed up. Television through the window, echoing between the buildings. A detective show on Channel 5, a cartoon theme song on Channel 2. The sounds mixed together strangely, like one giant neighborhood program made from pieces of everybody's evening. I tried guessing which apartment each voice was coming from. Sometimes I got it right, mostly I didn't. Television through the window, floating over parked bicycles, over sprinklers and garden hoses, over the warm summer sidewalks. The stars above the apartment roofs, the voices across the whole block.
Around 10:30 most evenings, I read for half an hour in bed. The same lamp beside the headboard, the same mystery novel for a week. Then right on schedule overhead, a chair slides across the floor, followed by footsteps to the kitchen, and cabinet doors opening twice. A minute later comes the laughter, not loud, just enough to notice, the kind that slips out unexpectedly before somebody says, shh. Somebody laughing upstairs through an old ceiling after dark. A few familiar voices in an apartment I've never seen. The building settling for the night, pipes ticking in the walls, and somehow all those little sounds become part of the room. For years I tried to guess who lived there. A family, maybe two roommates. At one point I was convinced there was a trumpet player involved. Then one winter I heard a dog bark right above my kitchen light, so that theory disappeared along with several others. The funny thing about neighbors is how much you can recognize without ever learning a name or seeing a single photograph. Somebody laughing upstairs, a television turned down low, footsteps crossing the hallway, then fading toward the bedroom. A glass set down on a counter, water running through the pipes, the ordinary soundtrack of people finishing another day. One summer they went away for 2 weeks. The apartment stayed completely silent. No laughter, no footsteps, no chairs moving across the floor. I slept fine, mostly. Somebody laughing upstairs, again around 10:30, followed by a door closing softly, and the faucet in the kitchen. My book resting on my chest, the lamp still glowing beside me, the building carrying all of us toward another morning. Final laugh through the ceiling, the turning of a page, and another ordinary night, exactly where it belongs. The screen window stayed open tonight, letting the warm air move through the room. A baseball game played somewhere nearby, too distant to make out the score. Across the courtyard, supper dishes were still stacked beside a kitchen sink. A woman watered balcony flowers before carrying the can inside. The sky above the rooftops held on to its last bit of blue. And television voices drifted softly between the apartment buildings. Windows going dark, one by one, across the neighborhood tonight. A kitchen light near the corner store, then the apartment above the bakery. Curtains moving in the evening breeze, street lights humming below, the whole block settling gently into another summer night. The family on the second floor finished dinner around 8:30. Their youngest ran past the window twice before disappearing down the hall. A porch light clicked on briefly, then off again a little later. Someone remembered something in the car and came back laughing quietly. The television across the alley changed channels a few more times. Blue light flickering behind curtains, then fading from the room. Windows going dark, one by one. A lamp beside a bookshelf, the glow above a kitchen table, a hallway light near the stairs. People finishing crossword puzzles, folding laundry before bed, turning locks and checking clocks the way they always do. It's a funny thing to notice how familiar strangers become. The window with the hanging plant, the radio on the third floor, the apartment that stays awake the latest most nights of the week. You learn these things without trying. Windows going dark, one by one. The dark blue sky above the rooftop, the last television growing quiet, the last curtain being drawn, a dog settling somewhere nearby, a bicycle resting by a fence, and dozens of ordinary lives safe inside their evening routines. The breeze through the open window, the streetlights below the trees, the neighborhood finally asleep, and everything exactly where it should be. The plates were stacked beside the sink from a dinner that wasn't much. Rice, vegetables, yesterday's chicken, enough to clear the refrigerator a little. The kitchen light turned everything gold, the countertop, the dish rack, the cups outside the window. The sky had gone dark without me noticing exactly when. Water filled the basin slowly, the faucet making its usual sound, And somewhere down on the sidewalk, a bicycle rolled across loose pavement. Somebody washing dishes, with the window open to the night. Voices drifting up from below, then fading around the corner. A dog barking near the parking lot, a car passing through a green light. The neighborhood carrying on without asking anything from me. The apartment across the courtyard still had their television on, blue light flickering through curtains, changing shape against the wall. A radio played somewhere nearby, not loud enough to recognize the song, just enough to remind me someone else was still awake. The dish towel hung from the oven handle, the calendar turned to August. A grocery list held by a magnet beside two unpaid utility bills. Somebody washing dishes, one glass at a time. The sound of plates meeting the rack, and water circling the drain. A laugh rising from the street below, then disappearing into the evening air. The kind of moment that arrives and leaves before you think about it. Years are mostly built from evenings like this, though nobody says that out loud. The mail on the counter, the window left open a little too long, the sound of people heading home. Somebody washing dishes, the sink finally empty now, a clean plate drying by the window, and the kitchen growing quiet. The dog stopped barking, the traffic thinned out gradually, and the night settled over the neighborhood the way it always seemed to do. The last glass in the dish rack, the light above the stove, and voices drifting through the darkness long after dinner was over.
Yeah. At 8:30 I turned the sign around from open to closed again, counted bills into the metal drawer, and switched off half the lights. The refrigerator cases kept humming long after the customers were gone, and the floor still smelled faintly of oranges near the front display. Outside, a bicycle rolled past slowly, its basket rattling over cracks. Someone waved through the window glass on their way home from work. The window above the grocery store open to the summer evening, street lights waking one by one along the avenue below. People carrying paper bags, crossing at the corner light. The neighborhood settling down the way it always did. evening news. The window above the grocery store, looking out across the rooftops. Laundry moving on balconies in the last bit of daylight. A dog barking near the pharmacy. Children called home for dinner, and someone dragging a chair inside before the mosquitoes came out. The man who delivered newspapers, always parked in the same place. The woman from the flower shop closed 10 minutes after me. After enough years, you stop checking the clock and start recognizing days by the sounds they make. The window above the grocery store, night arriving through the screen. The traffic growing softer now as the sidewalks slowly emptied. A radio playing from somewhere too distant to make out the words. Just another evening in the neighborhood, passing through the open air. The lights below the awning, the fan beside the table, and the voices drifting upward through the window above the grocery store.